All right, for the bracket, we are going to be working um, with millimeters. And so everything we've done up until this point, we have used inches. Okay, so we got to switch over to metric. So the first thing you need to do before you do anything is make sure that you're switching your units over. So once you've created your file or your document, you're going to have to go up to the document menu, and you're going to change the workspace units. Okay. When you click on workspace units, it's going to default to inches. You want to change that to millimeters. Right. Um, the rest of it's going to probably be okay since we're not really going to be, weighing anything. Obviously, pounds are not uh, in the metric system, but we're not actually going to be using any of that. So just switching the default length over um, will be fine. So I'm going to hit the check mark after I fix that. The reason that this becomes really important is these measurements. If I'm going to give you 155 millimeters, that's a lot different than 155 inches. So when we're making this bracket, uh, brackets aren't very big. They're relatively small. So you have to keep that in perspective when you're making these kind of objects. Okay. I'm going to be flipping back and forth from this screen and the direction screen. So this is what a bracket looks like. It looks really complicated, but I'm going to walk you through all the steps. The idea of a bracket is if I have, something like this and something like this, and I want to connect them together, you use a bracket. You can use a bracket to hold those together. You have holes for the screws that go into both of those, and the brackets what holds those pieces together. So basically, this is all directions in Autodesk Inventor. It's a different type of CAD program. But you're going to see that as I go through this, it's actually fairly easy to create this object even in Onshape. A lot of these directions are going to flow over fairly easy. So when we're talking about a bracket and we're looking at the basic shape, hopefully you can already see what the shape is. I'm looking at it from the front. If I were to just box this out, I'm looking at a rectangle. And so that's what I'm going to be building first. And then I'm going to cut away at that shape. Um, Notice that the length here is 156 millimeters. I was close. I think I said 155 earlier. 156 millimeters in length. And then the height's going to be 87. And so that's what I'm going to go ahead and make that rectangle right now. So I'm going to flip back over. I'm going to get rid of the views that I don't need. I'm going to keep the front view on right now. So I'm going to create a sketch on my front. I'm going to go ahead and view it from the front. I'm going to go create my box here. And so the first one is going to be, so my height, right? So that's what has the box right now. The height's going to be 87. Hit enter. And then the length is 156. 156 millimeters. Okay. And so if I recenter that out, there is my basic shape. I'm going to go ahead and hide my plane now because I'm not going to need that anymore. There you go. So I got 156 by 87. All right. So I'm going to finish that up. I'm going to turn this into a 3D shape. So I'm going to extrude this now. And my extrusion should be by 50. So I'm going to click on my object. Right now it's like 5, I'm going to go 50 millimeters. Enter. And there I got, and you should hopefully be able to see, all right, now I already got this, this rectangle shape here. Okay. Now the next thing they're going to tell us to do is take away these sides. So I can kind of scroll down. So here's where we're at. So the sides that I'm going to be taking away, I'm going to make these rectangles in the corner. That's 32 by 65. Okay, so I'm going to create a new sketch. Change my view here. So what was it, 36 by what? 32 by 65. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start in the corner here. So 65, 32. So there's my one rectangle, but I'm also taking away the side over here, so I'm going to do actually both of them at the same time. So 65 and 32. Oop. Mess that up here. So I got to actually change this one because I typed it in wrong, so I just got to double click that 65. Okay, so I have two rectangles in the corner there, which is great. I can finish that sketch. 32 by 65, and then when I extrude, I'm going to go ahead and click on both of those, and I'm going to remove that. And so I want to remove that all the way through. So that depth was 50. There it is, and I can hit my check mark. All right, so now you can kind of already see the bracket forming. So when I look at my overall shape here, right, I already got that bracket forming. I'm already like halfway done here. And all I've done was remove the sides and make a rectangle. So right, you take this really what looks like complicated shape, and then you kind of realize it's not that bad. Now the next part I have to do is I gotta kind of make this inlet part of my bracket. So this one's a little bit trickier because I'm not going all the way through. I'm only cutting in at a certain depth. Okay? And so that rectangle is, the way they give the directions here is 50, but it's offset by 21, so it's centered, and then it's up by 29. So I can go ahead and create a new sketch. Okay, I'm going to view it from the front again. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of draw a rectangle about what I expect it to look like. So something like that. And now I can use my dimension from here. So I'm going to escape out. I'm going to actually use my dimension tool this time. So okay, right here. So from here to here, I believe, well, what did we say it was? 21. Let me just confirm that. Yeah, 21. Okay, that's going to center this rectangle right where I want it, which is great. So like if I were to click here to here, you're going to see it should be 21 here. Apparently it does not do that. Okay. This length is 50, that's why, because I didn't do this. So if I click here, it's going to be 50 already. So notice I said here to here is 21, here to here is 21. That means there's only 50 left. If I deleted this one, right, and then like I didn't do what I did before, so there's 21. Now if I were to use, so that's how they wanted us to do it. I'll just do it that way. So 21 from here to here. This line is 50, and then from the bottom to this bottom was 29. So there you go. So there's my rectangle, but I'm going to have to extrude. Finish that sketch. Change my view. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and extrude that in. And so the extrusion in part says it's at a depth of 27 millimeters. I'm going to go ahead and extrude this box. Remove by 27. So I'm removing. I'm going at a depth of 27. Okay. Now you can already see how that's looking. Okay. The next part is to do counter bore screw holes. And so those are going to go here and here. So to connect to the board, like I said, when you have that right angle, I'm going to be screwing some into this board, and I'm going to be screwing some into this board. So I got to have holes in the bracket in order to do that. So I'm going to start on this side. And so I'm going to create a sketch. And I'm going to view it from the top this time, so I'm going to look down on it. It's going to make it easier to see. Okay, so here's the top view. And so I need to create a point here and a point here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do both at the same time. So there's going to be a screw hole over here, and there's also going to be a screw hole over here. And now the key is to get these dimensions right. So from the side to the point is 16, from the top to the point is 23. So I'm going to add those dimensions in. So from the side to the point is 16. And from here to the top is 23. Right, is that right? 23. Yep, so that's interesting because I would have thought that those were actually centered, and apparently they're not, because the center would be 25. Oh well, I'm just going to follow these directions. That's fine. So notice this point just shot off. So from here, and I can even go to the inside, that's going to be 16. And from here to the top is going to be 23. Oh, and because of how I did my point, so I'm going to actually delete that. I'm over constraining the sketch right now. That's why it's red. The reason that that's happening is because when I put the points, you saw that dotted line that showed up. I actually constrained that already. So I'm actually going to delete that because it's red. It's just over constraining. I already have that dimension over here. I would make sure that you have that dimension just in case anything goes wrong. And that's all I have to do. I added the points, and now I got to create the hole. So I'm going to finish my sketch. I'm going to go ahead and use my hole tool. And I'm going to have to find my points there and there. So you see how both of them have now been created. I'm going to go ahead and there you go. From that view, you can actually see that these holes are there. Now the type of hole was a counterbore. So I'm going to make sure I select the right one. Okay. And now I got to look at make sure that these are right. So the size of the counterbore itself is 18. So you can see that up here. So this is 18. The depth of it is 10. So that's right here. And the depth of the hole, it looks like this is through all. So termination, I want to go through. Okay, so in other words, if I were to look at it, notice that hole's going all the way through. And then there's my counterbore right at the top. So this here, diameter 5. What's my diameter of this hole? 13. So I need to change that. So this should be 13. So when you're doing yours, do counterbore. Instead of blind, you're doing through. This is 13, 18, 10. And that actually looks a lot more accurate. So now when you see the hole, that looks a lot better. Yeah. So that is actually going to be able to hold a screw there. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and finish my sketch. And look at that, man. This is starting to take shape. That's awesome. Now the next ones I got to do is on the front. So I'm going to add 2 points here. Notice this one's 15, 23, 42, 23. Okay, so I got to add 2 points in here. Create another sketch. And I'm doing it on this face. I'm going to change my view. Okay, I'm going to add 2 points. Just add those there. Okay, and now I'm going to use my dimension tool to make sure they're in the right place. So from here is 23. Here to here is 23. Okay, and then what's my distance? 15 and 42. So from the point here is 15. I already forgot this one. I think it said 42. Is that right? Is that crazy? No, that was about right. 42, 15. Great. So I'm going to be creating a hole here and here. Okay, so making sure that you're using that dimension tool. I'm done with that. I can finish my sketch. Once again, I'm going to use the hole tool. Here and here. Awesome. It saves it for us. That's fantastic. So I have my counter bore. I have through 13, 18, 10. Just going to follow up. Actually, it's a different type of hole. Sorry. So we're using actually countersinks here. So I'm going to change that. So this has got to be countersink. Notice the countersink, it changes. It's like an angled hole here. Countersink, it is going to go all the way through. So we have the top part here. I guess the diameter of the hole is what we're going to do first. So that's 13, which I already have. Great. The top part is going to be 20. And the degree is going to be 90, just like that. So it's going to be 13, 20, 90. I can finish my sketch, or finish my hole. Look at that, that looks awesome. So check it out. So there's the countersink, and then these are the counter bores down here. Different types of holes. And it has to do with the head of the screw. Okay. The last thing that you got to do are the fillets, and then you're pretty much done. So these big ones here are going to be 12, and then all the rest are going to be 3. So you can see these big ones, that's going to give you the real rounded effect. So let's go ahead and get into our fillets. Let's do the big ones first. What did I say was 12? So the big ones are going to be here, 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 this back corner, this one right here. I'm using my right mouse to kind of navigate around, and then this one. So if you look at all these, I got 1, 2. Go to the front here. Oh, that's not helpful. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Those are the big ones at 12 millimeters. So I'm going to go ahead and finish that. If you mess any of those up, just X out and do it again. Okay, I'm going to use the fillet, a second one, and this one's going to be, I believe it was 3 millimeters. And that's all of the other edges. And it would not be uncommon if you misclick on this. I always mess this up. So you're going to basically go around every single edge and around, fillet those edges. Sometimes you can see how that all highlights? That makes things a lot easier when you get those. Oh, look at that. One click. So you want to make sure that all of these edges are filleted, including these back edges here. Boom, that looks great. Awesome. And when I finish that, now once again, if you mess up, just hit the X, try filleting again, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and hit that plus sign. Oh man, that's just awesome. Look at how good that is. I'm so good at this. So there it is. We just created that bracket. It's all the correct measurements. And then that's going to be showing up on your working drawing, okay? And so that's going to be the next step. After you make this, you're going to go ahead and make that working drawing. Make sure that you have all of these fillets before you save it and get into your drawing.